I was never a fan of change. So, when I had to relocate because of my job, it pained me. Memories of my childhood home, the loss of my parents in that unfortunate accident, and the abandonment of my sister who just disappeared one day, haunted me. All I had left from my past was an old, rusty key that belonged to the basement of my childhood home, a place I never dared to enter after my sister's disappearance. 2 months after settling into the new town, I realized something peculiar. The mailman seemed off. He wasn't the typical cheerful guy you'd meet, sharing stories or whistling a tune. Instead, he'd avoid eye contact, drop the mail with shaky hands, and then speed off. Once I even noticed dirt and what looked like old dried blood on his uniform. Maybe it was just my grieving mind playing tricks. One day, as I was nursing my coffee, I spotted the mailman standing outside an abandoned house 2 doors down. It looked ancient, with boarded-up windows and ivy creeping up its sides. I could have sworn it wasn't there before, or maybe I had never noticed it. He cautiously approached the house, and, after checking, no one was watching, except me, from behind my curtains. He unlocked the front door and disappeared inside. Driven by a strange urge, I decided to investigate the house the next day. As I approached the door, that familiar rusty key from my past felt heavy in my pocket. On a whim, I tried it on the front door, and to my shock, it turned smoothly. The door creaked open, revealing a dusty old living room with furniture covered in white sheets. Everything seemed normal until I found the entrance to the basement. My childhood fears resurfaced, but I mustered up the courage and descended. It was pitch black. As I fumbled for a switch, my hand brushed against what felt like cold, hard leather. Turning on my phone's flashlight, I realized I was surrounded by hundreds of neatly stacked old letters and packages. The dates on the postmarks went back decades. But what chilled me to the bone was a corner filled with personal belongings, watches, rings, and the identical rusty key I had in my pocket. Panic set in, and I bolted upstairs. That's when I saw the framed pictures on the walls. There were images of families, some going back to what looked like the early 1900s, but they all shared a similar feature. A familiar-looking mailman standing in the background, his ageless face ever watchful. The weight of realization was crushing. This wasn't just a mailman with a penchant for keeping what wasn't his. No, the old letters, the undelivered packages, the trinkets and rings, they were his conquests, trophies of his twisted game. Each artifact represented a person who had vanished without a trace, like faded whispers in the wind. And amongst these whispers was my sister's. A sudden, chilling gust of wind raced through the old house, causing the front door to slam shut. Its bang reverberated through the air, making me freeze in place. I then heard the deliberate, slow tread of boots on the creaking wooden floor, drawing closer with each second. From the dim corridor, the eerie voice of the mailman wafted through, dripping with a coldness that sent shivers down my spine. "You shouldn't have come here," he whispered menacingly. My vision blurred with tears, the overwhelming pain of losing my sister years ago, now merging with the fresh terror of the moment. "Where is she? What did you do to her?" I demanded, my voice trembling. His chilling laughter echoed around me, devoid of any warmth or humanity. "Your sister?" he drawled, a smirk evident in his voice. "She's just one in a long line of many." Raw emotions surged within me, anger and grief combining into a force I hadn't known I possessed. In a moment of desperate bravery, I charged at him using all my weight. We tussled, each trying to gain the upper hand. In the dimness, my hand found a heavy, ornate candlestick on a nearby table. Without hesitation, I swung it with all my might, connecting with his temple. He crumpled to the floor, unconscious. Rapidly, I tied his hands and feet with a curtain cord. Once I was certain he couldn't escape, I dialed 911. The police arrived swiftly. As they secured him in handcuffs, he turned to look at me. His gaze was chilling, a malevolent grin spreading across his face, as if he knew something I didn't. The ageless quality in his eyes made me wonder if the rumors of him being more than human had any weight to them. The next few hours were a blur of police tape, flashing lights, and investigators. The basement became the focal point of their search. There, concealed behind a false wall, they discovered a ghastly chamber. Rows of skeletal remains lay in the dark, silent testimony to the mailman's heinous acts. Some of the bodies, they surmised, had been there for over a century, preserved in the cool, dry environment. Amongst the grim collection, I recognized a heart-wrenching sight. A delicate locket I had given my sister on her 16th birthday. The very same one she was wearing the day she vanished. The burden of guilt I'd carried for not being there for her all those years weighed me down. But as the truth unfolded, it provided a twisted sort of closure. I had not been the cause of her disappearance. Instead, she had been a victim of a malevolent predator. In time, I decided to move away from the town and its haunting memories. A fresh start, I hoped, would allow me to heal. However, every once in a while, on particularly silent nights, I would discover an unmarked envelope on my doorstep. Inside, devoid of any message or writing, was only a dried, blood-red stain, a grim reminder that certain horrors linger, transcending time and space.